It's always injuries with the Orlando Magic, and injuries are the story again. What the Magic missed without Jalen Suggs, and how the Magic survive today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is December 17th, 2025. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com, credentialed member of the Orlando Magic media since the 2012 season. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, injuries are the story as the Magic return home and get back to work after the NBA Cup ends. Why injuries have defined the season already and what the Magic can do about it. Plus, we'll talk about what the Magic will miss without Jalen Suggs for however long he is out. We're going to get to all that coming up here in just a moment. Plus, take a look at the early trade deadline chatter and what the Magic's trade deadline goals might be. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. First, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. We truly appreciate all of our Orlando Magic dailies, our everydayers who are part of the Locked On Magic community, listening 5 days a week, listening on the weekends, listening as part of their regular podcast rotation, listening first thing in the morning. We truly appreciate everyone who is part of our Locked On Magic community. And thank you for helping make the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. It's your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. We hoped this season would be different. We really did. Last year, the Magic got only 6 games of Jalen Suggs, Paolo Banchero, and Franz Wagner together for a total of 97 minutes. We never got to see the Orlando Magic at their absolute best. Paolo Banchero missed 2 months with a torn oblique. Franz Wagner missed 20 games with a torn oblique. Jalen Suggs played fewer than 40 games last year because of back spasms, because of knee contusion, because of that knee surgery that he ultimately had in February. The Magic ultimately never were whole. And so obviously, we came into the season, Suggs was on the minute restriction, still working his way back, but adding Desmond Bane, we felt now they'll be able to balance the lineups out a little bit. Now maybe the Magic could absorb a small injury here and there, but we would see a healthy team in everything they are capable of doing. And again, let me be clear. What we have seen so far this year is everything or a lot of what we thought we would see. Again, even with the injuries that we're going to talk about today, I still expect the Magic to be third in the East by the time they get back from London. I still expect the Magic to finish third or fourth in the Eastern Conference. I am very confident that they will outlast Boston. We'll see what Cleveland does if Cleveland makes a move, but I am very confident the Magic are still one of the absolute best teams in the Eastern Conference. And again, we'll see how things play out. And how the Magic perform over the next few weeks is going to be a big piece of this puzzle, because this next month, these next 4 weeks, we're always going to be the part where the Magic begin to distance themselves from the rest of the conference. These next 4 weeks where the Magic have to build wins. And again, even with just Paolo Banchero and Desmond Bane, the Magic should still be able to pick up a lot of steam. Everyone went crazy when the Magic went 7-3 with Paolo out and Franz in. The Magic are going to have some 7-3 moments coming up here in the next 4 weeks, but they're still going to have to figure out how to do it. Because 10 games into the season, Paolo missed 10 games with a strained groin. Jalen Suggs obviously dealt with his minute restrictions early in the season. He is going to be out an indefinite amount of time. It's depending on how he responds to treatment with that hip contusion. And frankly, it's not just a hip contusion. That's what he'll be officially listed out as, but it's letting the accumulation of all those injuries that Jalen Suggs picks up throughout the course of the year, letting them get better so that he'll be there for the long run. It's Franz Wagner still working his way back from a high ankle sprain, And we were in the Advent Health Training Center on Tuesday. we could see him in the back. We could see him in the weight room doing work. So he might still be in a walking boot as a precaution, but Franz Wagner's doing things. It's not yet clear if he's going to travel on this West Coast trip. I wouldn't expect him to play during this West Coast trip anyway. I think we're still at least 2 to 3 weeks away from him returning. But Franz is doing the work. And then eventually the Magic are getting Mo Wagner back. Mo Wagner did non-contact portions of practice with the team. He is back on the floor with his teammates. He warmed up, did his shooting slot before Saturday's game in Las Vegas. And as we were talking to players during Tuesday's practice, Mo Wagner was playing king of the court with Desmond Bane, Jace Richardson, and Noah Penda, taking contact one-on-one. Mo Wagner's return is officially imminent. Won't happen during this road trip. December 26th against Charlotte is certainly a possibility. My bet would be January 4th. I'm kind of putting the over-under at January 4th against Indiana Pacers. Beginning of a very light stretch of the schedule. Pacers, I believe they play Pacers, Wizards, Nets. Very, very manageable to ease him back into things. This is all to say that while there are a lot of injuries, I want to paint an optimistic picture. Because yes, Paolo is slowly rounding back into form. Slowly looking like the superstar we know he can be. It isn't there yet. And for the Magic to win on this road trip and the Magic to come out of this road trip, I think 2-2 would be pretty successful on this road trip. 3-1 is certainly doable. But 2-2 would be a very successful road trip, I think, for the Orlando Magic. For them to go 2-2, they're going to need good minutes from Paolo. They're going to need the good version of Paolo. They still have Desmond Bane, too. And we still get Anthony Black. There's still Wendell Carter. There's still plenty of offense on this team. So this is the beauty of what the Magic have built. They have the scoring depth. They have the identity depth. They have the ability to withstand all of this. They have the ability to get by. And at minimum, hold the boat steady. And at maximum, do what they did during the 10 games Paolo Banchero was out. Go 7-3. Honestly, this team, especially with the schedule they're facing, which the schedule they faced when Paolo was out was much tougher than what they're going to face here over the next 10 games. But let's say Franz only misses 10 games. I think he's going to miss about 15. But those first 10 games, Magic, I think, are 1-2 or 2-1 in those games so far. No, they're 1-1. They've only played 2 games since Franz got hurt. They're 1-1 in those 2 games so far. Magic could very easily go 6-4 over the next 10 games. Again, the schedule's set up for them to be pretty successful, I think. But the Magic still have to reconfigure and figure themselves out. And that's the unfortunate thing about injuries. Yes, it is next man up. Yes, you sign these players to the roster. You give them the chance because you believe they can fill in when needed. The Magic are going to need Anthony Black to play much more consistent. They're going to need Paolo Banchero to look like all-star Paolo Banchero. They're going to need a little bit more from Wendell Carter. They're going to have to figure out whether Tyus Jones can do more than just be a game manager and hold the boat steady, or turn to a guy like Jace Richardson to create some things and be a little bit more of an attacker and get another downhill attacker now that you're missing 2 of your very few downhill attackers. They're going to need Tristan da Silva to get out of the shooting slump. They're going to need to recommit to their defense. They're coming off their 4th worst defensive game of the season against the Knicks on Saturday. It feels like an aberration. Magic haven't had a defensive game that poor since the Boston Celtics game in Boston. The other 2 bad defensive games were those games against Philadelphia and Detroit very early in the season. You have bad defensive games. It happens sometimes. Things slip sometimes. Don't get the fouls right. It's not a big deal. Just don't make it a habit. To survive these injuries, as the Magic have done so often over the last 2 seasons, they've got to recommit to who they are. They've got to recommit to their identity. And that is going to be the storyline, especially on this West Coast trip. Because, look, you're playing Denver. Denver's the best offense in the league. Denver's going to be really, really tough. But you could beat the Warriors. You could certainly beat the Jazz. You could certainly beat the Blazers. But you're only going to do that if you defend at a high level. And so for the Magic to survive, because the other pieces of the puzzle will come into place, but to survive, the Magic must get back to their basics. They must find a way to be the elite defensive unit. Don't care about the offense. Offense will come because your defense is playing so well. That's the beauty of the way the Magic play offense now. Their defense creates so much. But it's going to be on them to deliver. Injuries are unfortunately the story once again. But the Magic have survived them before. They can survive them again. And the good news is, none of the injuries the Magic are facing right now feel super long-term. Yeah, Franz Wagner, probably not back till early January. But Mo Wagner's return is imminent. And it probably only takes a few days of Jalen Suggs feeling really good. And again, I don't expect Jalen Suggs to play on this road trip, but I expect him to miss a week. I expect him back probably after Christmas, but it's only going to take a few days of Jalen Suggs feeling pretty good for him to get back into lineup too. So hold about steady, commit to your identity, and everything will be just fine. But that's the thing. In order to do that, the Magic have got to find their energy and find their identity without the quote-unquote head of the snake. What the Magic will miss without Jalen Suggs, we'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at Skims. When Skims announced they were making underwear for men, the reaction made perfect sense. People have been talking about Skims comfort for years. Most guys, though, stick to whatever they've been buying since college. I know I have. The same fits, same waistbands, that roll, and a whole lot of settling. Don't settle with underwear. Don't, because it's so important to comfort. Bad underwear ruins your day. Skims Men's changes that. One upgrade, and it's obvious why everyone's been talking. Look, I've been skeptical. I am exactly what that ad copy says. When I started wearing boxers, I went to the same store, got the same kinds of boxers. And as I've grown up, as I've matured, I found that I needed something a little different, but I didn't know where to turn. Thankfully, Skims came into my life. Thanks to the Locked On Podcast Network, Skims came into my life. Yeah, I'd seen the ads in the NBA, and I was like, oh, no way is that right for me. I'm not Shai Gilgeous-Alexander fit, but I was afraid to try something different. Don't be afraid to try something different, because Skims is designed to feel good. They fit right, and they actually stay put. I could not believe how much of a fan of Skims I was. They gave us some samples when they started advertising with us. I've gone back and bought several more pairs because I love Skims that much. Now, you don't want to hear me talk on and on about underwear. It's uncomfortable. No one likes to talk about these things, but I'm telling you, it will change how you sit. It will change how comfortable you are. If you have to be out and about all day, Skims is where you need to turn. So shop Skims Men's now at skims.com. And when you place your order, choose podcast in the post-purchase survey and select our show, Locked On Magic, from the drop-down menu to let them know we sent you. Plus, the Skims holiday shop is open. So if you're looking for the perfect gift this season for men or the women in your life, Skims has you covered. Again, go check it out today at skims.com. We want to thank you for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. And we want to thank you for being one of our everydayers, because you already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club and get Locked On Magic with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Check out the Everydayer Club at lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer club, and go to lockedonmagic.supercast.com. That's lockedonmagic.supercast.com to learn more about the Locked On Magic Everydayer Club, or check the link in the show notes to learn more. Jamal Mosley often describes Jalen Suggs as the head of the snake. The Magic get a lot of their energy and a lot of their intensity just from Jalen Suggs being his normal chaotic self. Just from him just mixing things up, being unafraid to get after it every single day. And look, we can talk all we want about what we see and visually what that looks like for the Orlando Magic and visually what Jalen Suggs' impact is, but there is a clear numerical impact to how Jalen Suggs plays. He has become vital to the team's success. Now, he's averaging 15.4 points per game, a little bit below his career high last year, but really much in line with it. It was about 16.2 last year. He's still shooting an icy 32.8%. Don't look at his home road splits. He's about 40% from three at home and below 30%. I think even below 20% on the road. But Suggs is shooting 40.5% on catch and shoot threes, according to data from Second Spectrum. He is scoring 1.22 points per possession on catch and shoot jumpers overall, according to Synergy. Jalen Suggs is essential to what the Magic are trying to do offensively, but he's been more important defensively. Again, the way the Magic are going to survive this rash of injuries is by doubling down and committing to their defense. The offense will come. We know what the offense is going to have to do. We know the offense needs to improve, but at these times when you're trying to survive, commit to what you're already really good at. Don't worry about what you need to work on. Commit to what you're good at. When Jalen Suggs is on the floor, though, the Magic have a 106.8 defensive rating. That is nearly 6 points per 100 possessions better than the team's overall average. Only Jonathan Isaac has a better on-court defensive rating than Jalen Suggs. Again, these are essentially the Magic's two best defenders. So it feels safe to say that Suggs is vital. That Suggs just makes this team go. And he's had these crazy on-off stats all season long. He has been the Magic, very early in the season, the Magic were a functioning, like, elite offense, 120-plus offense ratings, down to about 116 again this year. It's down to about 116 since, but you took him off the court and just everything didn't work. He's the ultimate glue guy keeping this team together both emotionally and with his skill set, because he's such a great catch and shoot three-point shooter, because he is a willing attacker, great mid-range shooter. He's quickly developed this nice little mid-range game. And he is so dynamic and so intense on defense. It's hard to replicate. And again, like I've said this a million times over the course of the rebuild, in order to be an elite team, you have to have players who are elite at something. And now, Paolo and Franz are certainly elite at something. Jalen Suggs is elite at defense. And again, that is a tough thing to replace. But the Magic have to think long-term here. So the reason why I don't think Jalen Suggs plays on this road trip is that, frankly, just Jalen Suggs needs a week off. That's, maybe a little basic, but he just needs to focus on his body. And when he spoke to the media on Tuesday, that's what he said he was going to do. Now, Jalen was not his usual cheery self. He's definitely bummed about this injury. I think Jalen is as tired as everyone else about all the different ailments that he's facing. He's a tough kid, and he will play through just about everything. Like I've joked with people, and when I was out in Vegas, people would ask me about Jalen Suggs because he didn't look like he was moving right. And even before the hip became more apparent, he didn't look like he was moving right. And this has been my joke for 4 years now, is that, as long as, Jalen Suggs' leg could be barely attached to his hip, his arm could be falling off the shoulder, and he'll play. If he can walk, he can play. That's the mentality that Jalen Suggs has. And again, like, when you have someone willing to do that, you run through a wall for that person. You do everything you can to make sure that person's effort is rewarded. And if you don't have a team that's willing to do that, then you got the wrong people. Jalen Suggs is the right people. He is the right person, the right player. He is the one you want fighting for your team. But sometimes, yes, the Magic need to protect Suggs from himself. And I think that's what they're going to be doing here. Again, I don't think he plays on this West Coast road trip. I honestly don't want him. Whatever groin issue that he was playing through, or whatever like mini knocks that he was dealing with, this hip contusion is a good cover and a good excuse to get him some rest, to get him off his feet, to allow him to recover because you need him in March and April. You need him in March, April, May. We got to get him to May. And look, injuries are the story of Jalen Suggs' career. They've been a bunch of different things over and over again. The surgery he had in February was, I think, the first surgery he had. I think he maybe had a knee cleanup before that, but he needs the time to get himself right. And that's what the Magic need to be patient about. Again, I mentioned the schedule yesterday. The Magic play 13 of their next 17 games against teams with records below 500. They played only 7 such games all season long to this point. They played 26 games. They played the most games in the league against teams with winning records. This is the time to take a breath. This is the time to take a beat. This is the time to let the team recover and again, grow. Like, you still need to win the games. You still need to respect your opponent. I'm not sitting here disrespecting the teams the Magic are going to face. There are some good under 500 teams they're going to face. Golden State and Portland are very dangerous and very tough to beat on the road. They're going to play Memphis, obviously, in the Europe games. Those are two teams that Memphis is right below 500. They're, very easily could be above 500 by the time Magic face them in January. Brooklyn is a dangerous team. Charlotte is a dangerous team if you're not careful. The Magic should win these games, and they should win these games with the roster that they have. But even Utah's a dangerous team. They got great offense. Can't defend anybody, but great offense. And the Magic have struggled to play the Jazz, struggled to win in Utah and Salt Lake City. But the Magic need to let Jalen get healthy, because a healthy Jalen Suggs makes this an Eastern Conference championship team. Like, just plain and simple, the Magic can get to the finals with a healthy Jalen Suggs. And so, yes, the Magic are going to be playing a little bit with one arm tied behind their back. They're going to be missing that spark plug. They've got to find a way to fill in and replace. They got to find a way to grit and play the defense that they know they're capable of playing. But they need Jalen Suggs more. And that's what we'll be watching as this season continues. It is officially trade season in the NBA. We have not talked about the trade deadline much, so let me give you a couple of trade deadline things to watch. We're still a little early, but we'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by friends over at Game Time. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. And with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part, especially if you're following the news right now regarding the World Cup. Tickets are a mess. That's why the Game Time app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. Here in Orlando, we are getting ready for bowl season. The Cure Bowl is today on Wednesday. Big game between USF and Old Dominion. We're looking ahead to next week's Pop-Tarts Bowl, same day as the Magic Nuggets. So if you can't go to Magic Nuggets, Georgia Tech BYU should be an excellent, excellent bowl game in the People's National Championship over at Camping World Stadium. Plus the Citrus Bowl between Michigan and Texas. Marquee names coming to Orlando this bowl season. And if you want tickets to the game, all you have to do is tap a section and your tickets will be locked in within minutes. There's no confusion and no hunting for fine print. On Game Time, prices include fees up front, which you have to love, and no last-second surprises at checkout. You can get alerts for teams and matches to make it easy to grab tickets the moment they drop instead of missing out. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off on Game Time. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is also brought to you by our friends over at Robinhood. Nobody knows your money goals better than you. Robinhood puts you in control of your money with tools that work as hard as you do, locking in on every opening, beating your personal record, beating it again, channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money, trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all on one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself? Expect more from your money. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. We are past December 15th. December 15th is the unofficial opening of trade season in the NBA. Now, why is December 15th the unofficial opening of trade season in the NBA? It's because when you sign a new contract, the team is not allowed to trade you for 3 months after that contract is signed, or December 15th, whichever comes later. So December 15th is essentially the day that every player who signed a contract in the summer becomes available to get traded. That's just what it is. So December 15th is always a big date around the league. But again, no one is surprised that nothing has happened yet. Everybody gets moved by deadlines. I do not think we will see any of the major moves that a lot of people are talking about until February, and it's early February this year, until the February, I believe it's February 5th trade deadline. So we've got 7 weeks, I believe, until that trade deadline, 8 weeks, I believe, until that trade deadline. We got some time. And again, a lot's going to happen. There's still, the 17 games that I talked about, for the Magic. That's all going to happen before the Magic hit the trade deadline. So 17 games is a long time. Again, go 10-7, maybe you're a little disappointed. Maybe you're not as high in the standings as you want. A little bit more impetus to make a move. You go 12-5, again, difference of 2 games. You go 12-5, you're still on a 51-win pace. You're probably third in the East and fairly comfortably third in the East. And you're in a nice little groove with everybody back and healthy. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you the Magic are certainly, almost certainly hunting for something. I also know that the Magic, just historically, are not a team that tries to keep up with the Joneses. So those reports that Miami might be chasing after Giannis Antetokounmpo, the reports that, maybe Detroit is chasing after Lauri Markkanen or Michael Porter Jr. or any of the bigger names on the trade market, that's not necessarily going to move the Magic. The number one thing the Magic want to see before they even think about doing anything else is they want to see their starting group play for a little bit longer. Now, again, the Magic starting lineup has played very precious few minutes together, but they are still among the very best lineups in the league. So I don't think the Magic feel like they have to make some massive, massive change. That doesn't mean the Magic should be satisfied. That doesn't mean the Magic should not be looking to make moves at the trade deadline. And certainly the Magic should be buyers at this deadline. They should be hunting and thinking of ways to improve their roster. And again, you can go down the list of names that have already begun to kind of spin in the rumor mill. Sacramento seems like they are completely open for business. Completely open for business. I've already had some talks with Matt George about this. The Magic very much would be a player, I think, for a guy like Malik Monk. Again, we got to look at salaries. We got to look at contracts. That stuff matters too. But I do think the Magic would be in play for that. I think there'll be a pretty good market for him. The problem, though, for the Magic right now is they've got a couple things they've got to balance. And the Magic have players that they might want to trade. Goga Bitadze has had a very nice season so far. I don't think the Magic want to trade him, but if Mo Wagner's up and running and back to speed, maybe he is an extra player the Magic are willing to give up. Jonathan Isaac in his contract, as good as Jonathan Isaac has been and looked better on defense over the last month, looking more and more like the classic Jonathan Isaac, that is a lot of money to spend on a guy that's averaging only 4 points per game. There are certainly some impetus perhaps to get off that contract and free up some of that salary or to fill that salary slot with someone who's a little bit more productive. We all sense that Jace Richardson is going to take some minutes. Like he is just playing too well. And by February, I would think that Jace Richardson will have some trust. And if he continues to play as well as he's looked like he's played in the minutes he's gotten, that he'll be really pushing for playing time. Dumping Tyus Jones $8 million or even saying, okay, we got this $8 million salary slot. Let's just use it differently. We'll take on some extra years in order to move him. there's plenty of flexibility the Magic have, and it's just, again, creating the right package, creating the right deal, and seeing if the market will take what the Magic are offering. Again, Tyus, Jonathan Isaac, Goga Batadze are probably the three guys the Magic are most going to put on the market. They'll put Jet Howard out there too, and I'll explain why in a minute. Those are the four guys the Magic will most put on the market. Goga Batadze is probably the guy that the market's going to want, and the guy the Magic are really hesitant to let go of. And they shouldn't let go of him until they see where Mo Wagner's at and what Mo Wagner can do when he gets back onto the floor. So we're in no position to make trades right now. We are in no position to talk seriously about anything because I think the Magic still have a lot to discover about themselves and a lot to discover about the direction that they're going in and that they're going to head in. But there's another goal the Magic have to be wary of. And unfortunately for Magic fans who are probably eager and excited to see this team be active at the trade deadline, I think this is going to be the actual goal for the Magic at the trade deadline this season. As things stand, of course, the Orlando Magic are a tax-paying team for the first time since Dwight Howard's last year in 2012. The Magic are $5 million, $5.6 million over the tax line. They're $1.2 million below the first apron. Now, again, the reason why the Magic are hard capped this year at the first apron. They're hard capped at the first apron because they use a mid-level exception to sign Tyus Jones. They cannot sign anyone like a 10-day contract or whatever. They cannot legally sign anyone until January 9th because a minimum salary would exceed the hard cap until January 9th. After January 9th, they'll be able to sign players. They'll be able to sign players to their empty roster spot. But that tax space, that $5.6 million to the tax, that is close enough that the Magic probably need to work to get under the tax. Now, why does this matter? Why am I stressing some arcane, like very nerdy thing to you? And talking about this in terms of the trade deadline, because the trade deadline is not just about acquiring and moving players around. The trade deadline is about straightening up your books before the tax bill comes due at the end of the season. You can be over the tax during the season. Your tax bill does not get charged or come due until the end of the season. Now, the Magic are going to be a second apron team most likely next season. They're certainly going to be a first apron team. So get used to the idea of the Magic paying the tax. What the Magic want to avoid is the repeater tax. If you are over the tax in 3 out of 4 seasons, in any 3 out of 4 seasons, you get charged an extra tax. Instead of a dollar for dollar tax, you get charged 1.25 or 1.5. I forget what the number is. Instead of a dollar for dollar tax, it's a 1.25 or 1.5 to dollar tax. Right now, the Magic's tax bill is $5.6 million because they're 1-to-1. It's their first year under the tax. But the Magic, knowing they're going to be under the tax or over the tax for the next several years while they're contending, they don't want that clock to start. So if they could find a way to shed $5.6 million, however they can shed it, that would be extremely valuable to them. Now, of note, Jet Howard is at $5.5 million. He's about 50,000. They're a little bit less than his contract is a little bit less than $50,000 away from that tax line. So dumping Jet Howard on someone or trading Jet Howard to someone does not accomplish the goal of getting the Magic under the tax. Trading Tyus Jones certainly would. You know, there are ways to do that. But when the Magic make their trade, they are going to try very, very hard to take back less money than they send out. And that will probably mean they're going to have to pay a little premium to do that. Maybe a couple of their second round picks that they still own a lot of. They still own a lot of second round picks. But to me, this is the main goal of the trade deadline. It isn't to add that last big piece. And I think Orlando needs another ball handler and another shooter coming off their bench. If they could find a way to get Malik Monk, and maybe we'll talk more about this as things get more serious, maybe as rumors begin to really show that the Magic might be interested in Malik Monk. Malik Monk's making $18.8 million this year. He's got $20.2 million next year, and he's got a player option in 2028 at 21.6 million. So you're going to take a lot more money in order to get a player Malik Monk on the long term. But you could certainly construct a deal of Jonathan Isaac and Jet Howard. Again, I don't know if that would work completely, but you could certainly get the money together. Even Jonathan Isaac and Tyus Jones easily gets you there. But you could certainly construct the money to make a Malik Monk deal that also gets you under the tax. So it's not impossible, but it is going to be difficult. And again, I hate to be the guy for bad news here for those who are eager for an active trade deadline. I think finding a way under the tax is the main goal for this Magic team. Like it's going to be something that's not about this year. It's about setting themselves up and saving ownership a little bit of money moving forward. But we'll see, because we still got 7 weeks before the trade deadline. And yes, there are needs the Magic have to fill. I think the Magic could use a more solid backup point guard, certainly another ball handler, another attacker, and a three-point shooter. It is, again, why I am, despite his questionable defense, I am still kind of interested in Malik Monk. I think Monk would be a really good fit for this team and add a lot to this team. But we got 7 weeks to sort through all the rumors and sort through all that. And there's a lot of basketball play between now and then. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at @PhilipR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Emily, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all the places you download podcasts to your podcast enabled device. You can find us on YouTube as well. Just search for Locked On Magic. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us on Twitter at @OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. As always, thank you for your support. If you need a last-minute holiday gift or someone keeps asking what you want, make it easy. Ask for the Everydayer Club. Ad-free episodes of this show, exclusive Discord server access, and more. Subscriptions can be gifted through LockedOnMagic.supercast.com. Again, that's LockedOnMagic.supercast.com. For those of you on video, we're going to send you to the first ever 24/7 national NBA YouTube channel to break down the big NBA Cup win for the New York Knicks. On audio, make sure your second listen is NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA. They do a great job covering the league as a whole, catching you up on everything going on every night in the NBA. We're going to be back again tomorrow. We're going to talk about how the Magic fill in for Jalen Suggs, the pressure that is squarely on Paolo Banchero, and how he can continue to improve, and look ahead to this big West Coast trip, what the Magic need to do to be successful back on the road. We'll get to all that on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Magic. But until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Phil Rossman-Reich. We'll see y'all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.